So the Government of India Act had already created a lot of rift between the Hindus and the Muslims. The main idea of the separate electorates that was solely responsible for increasing the rift between the Hindus and the Muslims. The idea of separate electorates, as a result of which you will also see that Congress failed to win seats in Bengal, in Punjab, in Sindh was newly formed later on. Okay, so those were the places where Congress failed to win seats. Okay, the Muslim dominated states where Congress barely won seats. This was because of this idea of separate electorates. People had also started believing that Congress is solely favoring the Hindu side, the Hindu population, which is why, of course, we saw that the divide between them was widening each and every time a new policy, a new act of government came. That is what gave rise to this idea of communalism. Okay, the Government of India Act of 1935, it introduced these separate electorates. Okay, and the different representation for different religious groups, not just Hindus and Muslims, but for different religious groups. It fostered a sense of communal identity and interests. Okay, the divide between Hindus and Muslims became more pronounced. Okay, Muhammad Ali Jinnah led Muslim League increasingly advocated for separate political representation of Muslims because they feared that Congress is dominated by Hindu majority, and that dominance by Hindu might lead to the minoritism of Muslims, which they did not want, of course. So what they did was they pleaded for a Muslim dominated representation, okay, a separate political representation. There were several issues related to social and economic disparities between communities, which added to communal tensions. We had a greater population of upper class Hindus compared to Muslims. Okay, there were economic grievances coupled with religious identity. People felt that Congress is favoring, in every decision or in every idea that Congress is putting across in front of the British, Congress is favoring Hindus and not looking into the interests of Muslims. The All India Muslim League's formation itself was a big rift between these people, and gave way to communalism. Okay, and later on you will also see that they adopt the idea of Pakistan, a separate nation for Muslims. Okay, and all of this intensified the religious divide. We saw there were instances of communal violence and riots, and that became more frequent, especially after the Government of India Act of 1935. There was a lot of mistrust among communities altogether, mistrust between communities. Okay, cities like Calcutta, they witnessed severe communal riots that resulted in significant loss of life and property. Whereas some religious leaders, they were trying to unify and avoid the tension that was coming up. They were trying to unify people under one power, under one Congress party. They were time and again pleading that there is no such thing like Hindu Muslim divide or favoritism within the party. The others were emphasizing religious differences. Okay, and that they were doing for political gains. You saw World War II came 1939. Later on we'll come to that also. Congress ministries, they resign in the year 1939, and Muhammad Ali Jinnah is really very happy because he thinks that somehow we are getting a way to consolidate our power with the resign of Congress ministries. Congress ministries did not want to support the British government during World War, and then you saw that conditional support was later on given. Okay, simultaneously we had Quit India movement. Okay, all of this created an environment of political uncertainty, and political powers, they were trying to exploit this for their agenda. The Direct Action Day that was called by Muslim League on August 16, 1946, it led to communal violence in Calcutta and other parts of India. It was a critical turning point in communal violence. And then the Mountbatten Plan and Partition itself created so much violence. You saw 1947 how partition itself happened. Threat to identity was there. A large scale violence was there. People were being robbed, killed. Women were being raped in this transition. Okay, communal violence. And in the name of communal violence, we saw how others were, what do we say, getting advantage of the situation and, doing whatever they wanted to do. Okay. So this demand for Muslim state of Pakistan, and then the grant for the Muslim state of Pakistan, and thereafter, um, the large scale migration that happened, all of that resulted into communal riots. Okay, so coming to Congress ministries, which had been formed in the states where the elections were won by Congress, they decided. See, I told you in the Government of India Act, we had the federal form of system. The federal form of system was eventually not properly implemented, and at the provisional level, we had, accepted the demands. Things were accepted at provincial level, okay, and ministries had accepted their position, but only a conditional acceptance was done. That we're not going to agree to everything you say, but it's a conditional acceptance, okay? Because see, still they still had to work on the approval of Governor General, so ultimate power was there, okay? But within their demand, they were help. I mean, they were successful in the release of political prisoners. Okay, 100, sorry, 1,100 detainees of Bengal were released. They also demanded the release of Kakori prisoners. They demanded removing restrictions on political exiles. Okay, they said that all these political exiles, which people who were sent to jail in Andaman, they should be released. But again, they were not released from Andaman jails. Andaman jails, just go today you call Kalapani. No, no. Yeah, so you call them Kalapani. Okay. Uh, those jails, people were not released from those jails. Okay. And if you look at the Andaman jails, you would not want to be here, exiled to this place. Trust me. Go through some documentary on YouTube, and you will see how do these jails looked like. Okay. Proper exiles, proper Kalapani ki saza. Okay. This is what the Andaman jail looked like. Anyway, suspension orders on political parties was removed. Okay, press was given more freedom to criticize whatever it wanted to. Madras, Bombay, and UP loans were provided. Okay, and simultaneously the money lenders were also kept in check. Okay, we saw 1938 Industrial Dispute Act. The wages of the workers were increased. Okay, in Bombay. Uh, all the selling of intoxicating drugs that was happening, their licenses were restricted. Then tenancy legislation was taken up so that the riots who are facing problems, the land legislation becomes more clear for them. Okay, and there were many more laws that were brought for the protection of peasants from the money lenders, because money lenders had become a constant threat, especially to the riots or farmers or peasants per se. Okay. Coming to see, now we'll be talking. I have included the three roundtable conferences for you so that you get a gist of the roundtable conferences before we move ahead into the lesson. Since you have roundtable conferences mentioned into your work, let's just have a quick look at these roundtable conferences. The first roundtable conference, November 12th to 1930. November 12, 1932, January 19th, 1931. Representatives from the British government, Indian political parties, and princely states were there. Okay, the conference did not lead to any agreement or concrete results as the INC boycotted it. Okay, however, some results were made for some, recommendations were given for the future constitutional development in India. Gandhi ji was not called in the first roundtable conference. September 7, 1931 to December 1, 1931, second RTC. Okay, new participants. Gandhi was here. Viceroy of India, Lord Irwin. A pact was signed, Gandhi-Irwin Pact. during this conference. Okay, but the major political parties like the Congress and Muslim League, they did not reach a consensus on what would be the constitutional framework for India. So practically a failure. Third, RTC, Indian National Congress boycotted this thing again. Okay, but some leaders from the depressed classes, they attended the conference. This conference led to the formation of Government of India Act 1935, which you of course just saw how it gave provincial autonomy, increased representation. Okay, establishment of a federal government in India. Okay, which was not in the long run implemented though. So this is what happened in the first, second, and third RTCs. Okay, a basic gist of these RTCs here, so that while you're studying and going through all these things, you at least have a hint of it. Now, Congress ministries were formed. Okay, they were successful in coming up with a lot of reforms also simultaneously. So they were successful in doing a lot of new things in what do we say in the Indian government, in the Indian subcontinent within the British government. Okay, um, when the ministries took charge, another committee was formed, which was called the Labor Committee. Okay, Labor Committee formed in 1937 came up with a few reforms. Number one, workers will get holiday with pay. They will get leave with pay during sickness. They should be given insurance, employment insurance. The minimum wages should be fixed. And the trade unions should be recognized in India. Okay? Bombay Ministry, I just told you, Industrial Dispute Bill came. Okay? Working for increasing the wages in these what do we say factories in Bombay, because majority of the factories, the cotton mills in Bombay, a lot of workers were employed over here, so for their better working conditions. 24,000 workers went on strike in Kanpur for the same reasons. Working conditions were not that good. Okay, in Bengal, you will see that Congress also supported the jute mill strike against the British government. So all of this was to improve the situation in all these regions. Now, Bengal, number one, it wasn't a Congress-dominated region, but Congress supported the jute mill strike. How not a Congress-dominated region? Because a non-Congress member won the seat over there. Okay, All India National Education Conference at Wardha was held in October 1937. This conference gave 3 recommendations. Free and compulsory education to children up to 7 years. They'll be given vocational training, okay? And anything that is going to be taught to them would be taught in their mother tongue instead of English as a language. And till a certain point, Congress was able to achieve a lot of things. The jail reforms, reduction of the salaries of ministers. They were able to declare, the fundamental rights. They were able to come up with welfare scheme for tribals. So in all these domains, Congress had been successful till now. But we also saw, like I said, Bengal, Fazlul Haq was there. Now, Fazlul Haq actually reached out to Congress to form a coalition, but Congress refused. So then he reached out to Muslim League and they formed a coalition in Bengal. Sindh and Odisha, 2 new areas were created. In Bengal, Fazlul Haq, he formed the Land Revenue Commission, because Bengal also the tenancy problem was prominent one. The Bengal Tenancy Act. So to, give relief to the riots, this was supposed to be done. Okay? Arbitration committees were formed so that the dues of the riots could be settled. In Sindh, Congress supported Gulan Hussain Hidayatullah. In Assam, Congress supported Gopinath Bardoloi. Okay? And in Punjab, there was no Congress. All right? So Congress failed to introduce, despite Congress winning elections in majority places, it was not able to introduce these land reforms as beautifully as they were done in Bengal. The reason was Congress was dominated by aristocracies, landed aristocracies who were Muslim. Okay. Now, what happened if they came up with any land reforms? First of all, they were the money lender, the talukdar category. Okay. And it would be a great harm to them if land revenue reforms are put into play. Another thing is that in case these reforms are implemented, these Muslims would deviate more towards the Muslim League. So, to protect the interests of itself, Congress did not do the land reform things. Okay. Most talukdars in UP, they were Muslims. 1939, Congress ministries, they resigned over the World War II situation, I told you. Muslim League observed the day of deliverance on December 22, 1939. It said that okay, now it was happy that Congress had resigned. It could consolidate power more easily. Number one. Number two, Muslim League also came up with, it went to certain areas to spread a propaganda against Congress. It said that, Congress does not support Muslim. Congress is committing acts of violence against Muslims. Congress is not supporting the interests of Muslim. It's never going to put forward Muslims before Hindus and all that stuff. So it became a propaganda for Muhammad Ali Jinnah. Within this propaganda came the Pirpur Commission and the Nawab of Pirpur, who was against Congress communalism. He said, said that, Congress is committing acts of violence against Muslims. Same thing was Sharif report. Although Congress denied it, it said it's nothing like this is happening. Congress denied all the allegations. But yes, all this went on. Fast forward to year 1940, Lahore session of Muslim League. Urdu poet Muhammad Iqbal, here he said that we need a separate Muslim state in Northwest. But nowhere in this entire thing you will see that he hinted for a partition. Okay? Punjab, Northwest Frontier Province, Kashmir, Sindh, Baluchistan, all would come under this separate state. But in this very conference, see, Muhammad Iqbal had given this statement, I guess, in 1936. 39, something like that. Okay, check the date. That was the time when he gave the statement. But 1936, I guess. Okay. In 1940s, though, Lahore session, the Lahore resolution was adopted by Jinnah, who gave a two-nation theory. The new nation be Pakistan. Now, Pakistan was formed of the initials of all these and the latter syllable of Baluchistan. Okay. 1939, National Liberal Federation, Hindu Mahasabha, Indian native states, all non-Congress governments of Bengal, Punjab and Sindh, they all supported British. See, Jawaharlal Nehru was also in support of, British, that let's support British against the World War, in the World War thing. Okay. But they did not offer initial support, and all these parties did provide their support. Muslim League, it did not directly give support. Okay, it only supported with the condition that any advancement that British government is making in India, that should be consulted with them as well. Later on, Congress Working Committee also supported them, said it will give them conditional support. Okay, with the condition that the Constituent Assembly will be formed later for free India. But here, concerning the demands of two, British did not agree. They did not, they were not ready to give any concession. And that's when August offer was brought. Lord Linlithgow. Lord Linlithgow's August offer, 1943. Sorry, 40. The August offer said that the Viceroy's Executive Council would be expanded. Okay. More Indians would be included. But still the Viceroy will have the veto power. Okay. The promise of post-war constitutional reforms was also given. Okay. A war advisory council would be formed after the war, where native rulers would be included. Now, August offer gave a dominion status to the government of India. It said that you can govern yourself, but you will be a part of British Commonwealth after the war. Okay. Although the timeline specifics, they were not clearly defined. When will you give us the status and all these things? Okay. It also said that nothing would be done in India until unless things are consulted with the Muslims League and the other minorities. Okay. And we Indians had been demanding for a constituent assembly. So the August offer also said that yes, a constituent assembly would be created to draft the future constitution. And Indian representatives would be a part of the process. That was the August offer. Uh, just a second. I think it's repeated. Yeah, my bad. Next, now see, August offer was not accepted by the Indians because number one, we did not demand a dominion status. We demanded Poon Swaraj, complete independence. Okay. Number two, things were not made very clear. When will you give us the status? When are you going to give us independence? So Muslim League Congress both outright rejected the August offer. Then came the Cripps mission. Now, Cripps mission was actually, a pressure from the world powers, Russia and US and all these powers, that Indians should now offer support to British against the fight with Japan, because Japan had conquered Manchuria, captured Indochina, it had moved towards Assam. So within some time, it will, be taking all this area. So the British needed the Indian support over here, which is why Cripps mission was sent to India. Members of the Cripps mission, A.V. Alexander, Sir Stafford Cripps, and John Anderson. Okay, they were sent. Cripps mission, it said that it will establish the dominion of India, which would include both British India and the princely state. Okay, it would be similar to that of Canada or Australia within the British Commonwealth. The British mission also suggested for the formation of Constituent Assembly, okay, comprising representatives from British India and the princely states. This assembly would be responsible for drafting a new constitution for the proposed dominion of India. So, a formation of constitution was given. Now, they also gave an option to other princely states, okay, or other states to secede from India also. Now, this becomes very important. They are giving you the right of secession over here. They are giving you an option that you, as an independent state, can secede from India as well, and come up with your own state, something like that. The Cripps mission proposed the immediate establishment of interim government in India with maximum representation from Indian parties. Okay, and this government would be in charge of the administration of the country until we come up with a new constitution. Okay, so interim government, which is a temporary government. Then Cripps mission also said that if in exchange for what India is doing for us in the war, we are, giving you a right to consult, commitment to consult with the Indian representatives on any matter of defense and external affairs during the war. Okay. All this was happening, and though, defense and external affairs were still in the hands of British only, especially concerning the war situation, especially seeing that the Government of India Act had been totally, abandoned in the war situation. But all this was a failure. The reason is that number one, we did not want dominion status. We want full independence. And you are saying you have an option to secede. That means you're hinting at a formation of Pakistan. Why would we accept it? Why? You're telling us you can secede. The princely states can also be given right to secede. Why? Why are you giving them the option? Okay. Congress proposal for the formation of war council with Indian leaders, it was also not accepted over here. Okay. And all these proposals of Cripps mission, they were to be implemented in future. What of now? So Gandhiji called this Cripps mission as post-dated check on a crashing bank. Muslim League too rejected it because, they did not ensure the formation of Pakistan. And they also did not give them a 50-50 representations for the Muslim League in Congress. Okay. They did not fulfill the demand for separate electorate in the Constituent Assembly, which would be the constitution making body. So for all these reasons, the Cripps mission was also a failure. Okay, nothing was going down well with the people in India. Okay, because they were not being given what they wanted. And we also knew that Congress was acting in desperation. Not Congress, my bad. British were acting in desperation. Okay. So because of all of this, we did not accept their demands. And now when we further move, we will see how, Simon Commission, Quit India movement, then Subhash Chandra Bose, INA, all these things come into play. Eventually, us being granted the Mountbatten Plan comes, and then we are eventually granted independence. So all this we will see further. Till here, I suppose, I assume you have no questions because situations have been pretty obvious, upfront, clear over here. And now, see, try to understand one thing. Beat August offer, beat Cripps mission. The problem with their acceptance was that they were not very clear to us. So why should we accept them? As simple as that. All right. So now we'll go ahead and we are going to talk about what happened after the failure of Cripps mission. All right.